Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Cameron and Naiyya.
Wow.
Naiyya, good to be up here.
Yes. So we're finally doing this, Cam. This is exciting.
It is.
So listen, I'm super excited on behalf of the entire tech and design community to, first of all, be doing this conversation with you and to officially welcome you on your first visit to India.
It is my first visit. I think I'm on hour 76 of my India experience, and it's been wonderful so far.
So, okay, before we dive into other stuff, what's been the most exciting thing about you for India in the last 3.5 days?
Two things. The people have been amazing, incredibly friendly, incredibly giving. The people I've met who have told me about the tech scene here, about the culture here, it has been really valuable to learn from them. And secondly, the food has been incredible. Every place I've eaten over the last 4 days has been amazing.
And what's been your favorite dish?
I had some kulfi on Thursday night, which was delicious. And also the dal from Bukhara, that was incredible.
Yeah, that's my favorite too, Cam. You know, I think before we dive into sort of the business questions, 3 things that stood out to me, which not too many people may know about here. And by the way, we actually have commonalities in. One is that you were also a qualified lawyer and now a tech entrepreneur like myself. There's not too many of us in this sort of a paradigm.
I wouldn't say I'm a qualified lawyer, but I know a bit about the law, yes.
Yes. The second, of course, is that I think, and Canva in general, has been a very, very big believer in communities driving impact and growth. And I think that's really fascinating. We'll actually dive a little bit into that as well. And I think the third thing is that there's a fundamental belief in Canva from a software perspective of design having the ability to shape and impact lives at scale. And that's really what I'm building with my new venture edition as well, but from a hardware perspective, a design-led hardware perspective. So overall, a real privilege to talk to you, but let's dive right into it.
Yeah, I'd love to chat about that.
So let's get back into like the very, very early days of Canva, Cam. You know, as I think a lot of us here are very curious to know what really drove you to build Canva and to kind of like look at a future where you had this crazy belief that design would actually set the narrative for businesses, for individual creators, for how economies would shape up?
So we actually started Canva 13 years ago in 2012, but the story kind of begins even before that. As you mentioned, I did law at university, but I was terrible at it. And I put myself through university actually doing graphic design. I worked on making catalogs and flyers and posters, and that's where I did an incredible amount of learning. I also did computer science at university, so I managed to fuse both design and technology together. And I left university and started my own design agency and ran that for a while. And it got a bit of attention, and eventually Google came knocking. They wanted me to work on a product that they had been thinking about for a long time. So I joined Google in Sydney and worked on a product called Google Wave, which was all about communication, a new way of communicating. It was an incredible journey, but also an incredible failure. We launched the product, no one could figure out what it was meant to do, and we ended up with very few users on it. But it was incredibly formative for me because of the network that I got introduced to through the Googlers that I worked with. My boss at the time was one of the founders of Google Maps. So he passed on an incredible amount of knowledge to me about building products and thinking about businesses. And I left Google with 2 other Googlers, started another startup, which also went incredibly badly. But through that, I managed to meet my current co-founders, Melanie and Cliff. And we started Canva jointly with an understanding of how powerful design could be. Each of us had arrived at 2012 through different paths. But my background in professional design and technology fused with their background in business and working with people and community was really the secret sauce behind Canva.
And I think it's really interesting because, you know, you were building Canva and you were looking at design being transformative across different industries at a time when I don't think design thinking in itself was as prevalent, right? So it's super interesting that you bet, like the 3 of you bet on that future. So today, Canva actually has gone from this journey of being a startup to being used by folks as diverse as educationalists, to folks in, of course, tech, of course, folks in, you know, just general industry as well. Tell us a little bit about maybe the 2 or 3 formative steps that you all took as a team, maybe from a product side or from a business side or something that comes to mind, that really helped you scale up from startup to being like a global behemoth that it is today.
So we've been going for 13 years now, which is over a decade. And the industry which we're in has changed rapidly over that time. When we started, design was something that you would think only 1% of the world could actually do. A few professional designers used some complicated software to produce beautiful looking things. What we saw was that design was something that everyone should be able to do, not just 1%, but 100% of the world. And the power that you give people when you give them a really simple to use tool that helps them express their ideas and achieve their goals is incredible. But you can't start there from day one. We didn't have 200 million users in our first year. You have to start small. You have to find the people that really resonate with your idea and really want to use the product that you're putting out there. So we managed to find an initial community in social media. Instagram and Pinterest were just starting out at the time, so people were really interested in how they could create more visual content for those platforms. So social media managers really gravitated towards Canva. From there, we started expanding to other design types. We moved into presentations, we moved into websites and videos, even t-shirts and bags that you can get printed. And through each stage, we've broadened our audience and broadened the functionality of Canva to operate across every sector, as you mentioned, from education to enterprise to small to medium businesses. And I think that evolution in the product and the idea that you're constantly creating, adding onto the product, finding new audiences is really critical. And in speaking about finding new audiences, the last point I'll mention is about going global. In Australia, we have a very small population. We have 27 million people. In terms of the global audience, it's a drop in the ocean. So when you're thinking about a tech company in Australia, you need to think global first. You need to think about who's going to use your product in the United States, in Indonesia, in Brazil, in India, and you need to build from that from day one. And we have put a tremendous amount of effort into making the Canva product truly local, a product that people here in Delhi, in Bangalore, in Jakarta, in Barcelona can use and feel like it's a native product, like it was made for them, that has the content they need, that's in the language they speak, and feels authentically local. And that's what the team here in India, the Canva team, really focus on doing.
So, when I was talking backstage to Cam, I asked him, what has been the most interesting sort of insight or the most interesting usage pattern you've seen in India? Cam, do you want to share that? Of Canva.
So when we first launched in India, we saw a lot of people creating designs in the morning, which was weird because everywhere else, people would create designs in the middle of the day. And we were really curious, why are people creating designs in the morning? And of course, I'm sure you all know that it's about people sending good morning messages on WhatsApp. To us, it was a revelation. It was something we'd never heard of before. And when we discovered it, it immediately got our thoughts racing about the type of content people needed to make, about enabling people to use a template to send good morning messages, and of course it's spread like wildfire since then.
I don't know if you know, but my dad actually is a Canva user and he spams us in the morning with good morning, good evening, good afternoon, happy holy messages. So just so you know, you're a power user, my dad.
I have to apologize for that.
No, that's all right. It's good. It democratizes design, truly. But let's come back to this sort of double click on India. India is your 4th largest market already, and the press has been buzzing over the last couple of days on Canva's plans for India and to hyper-localize to India. And some really interesting, almost FMCG-esque products that you've been sort of working through from a product lens. Could you talk to us about maybe 2 or 3 things that you're doing to hyper-localize? India is a competitive market as well, right? So hyper-localizing to India, what do you folks have in mind?
Yeah, so India is a really exciting market for us because it grows so rapidly. You've gone from our 5th biggest market to our 4th biggest market in the space of months. And I truly believe that India can reach to the top position, given the uptake that you have with technology, the scale and size of the population, and the incredible innovation that you have across the country. In tackling that, we realized that we need a product that India supremely focuses on that. And they do it not just through content, so they create an amazing number of templates for Shadi, for various other events that you have in your life. But they also focus on the product itself. And we have engineers here who are tailoring the product for the Indian market and making sure that things like the way that you pay for a subscription is different here in India. We recently launched 1-day subscriptions and 7-day subscriptions because that's the way that you use software and the way that you find it most useful in your lives. And making sure that Canva matches up with that is really important. Earlier this week, we announced that we're also launching a Hindi website that you can use Canva through. And that is an end-to-end experience that thinks about the context and the culture of every person that's going to use it. It's not just about translating a few strings. It's thinking about the type of business that you run, the needs that your business has, the templates that you're going to use, the different channels that you're going to send them on, and it's all very particular to India itself.
So that really caught my eye because we were chatting about this backstage, and I think this point about like the 1-day usage, etc., is almost like a sachetization of SaaS, and we've seen it play out in FMCG and consumer at scale in India, and I think it's super interesting, but it's super sort of intricate in its workflows from a product perspective, right, Cam? So kind of like maybe just double clicking on that a little bit. When it comes to complexity, but also ease of use, the most foundational disruption and amplification of human ingenuity is happening today as we speak through generative AI. We're living in this paradigm. I think it's an exciting paradigm, an unprecedented paradigm. It's also changing the narrative of design. How is Canva leveraging generative AI in its workflows, in its sort of touch points with the consumers of Gen AI?
So since day one, our mission has been to empower the world to design, which means that we need to put design in the hands of people in a way that is accessible, that lets them express themselves and lets them achieve the jobs that they set out to achieve. And we've built software that enables them to do that. And when we started out, we used the best technology. We used mobile, we used web browsers, we used what people could get access to. Now, a decade later, AI has come on the scene, and we very much see it as an extension of empowering the world to design. It's enabling more people to design. It's enabling to bring design to different areas of their lives. It's enabling them to do it faster, and it's enabling them to do it with higher quality. So we've integrated AI across the product now at every step of design. And we're seeing incredible uplift in what people are able to do. They can explore more ideas. They can think about things more richly and more deeply, and they can work with their teams better. We're seeing professional designers and non-designers using artificial intelligence to make better ideas, to explore totally crazy and creative ideas and bring them to their team and have a much better conversation about what they ultimately want to ship. And I know you're doing this in your own business venture as well, and I think you can feel the excitement as you enter this new phase of business and the new possibilities that it can bring.
And Cam, if you were to double click a little bit into that, right? Because honestly, design was considered the last bastion of being human. Really, right? I mean, that was about being like human equals creativity, human equals ingenuity, human equals design. Where do you philosophically land in this intersection? And what do you see as the next big sort of trend on the Gen AI piece that will really kind of be that 100x delta from a design perspective?
I think we see this worry every time a technological innovation comes in. For centuries, every time a new technology has come out, people grapple with what it means for us as humans, as people. It's no different in the AI age, and we've still got a lot to figure out. But I'm personally very optimistic about what AI can bring and about how it can be a true partner. We're starting to see AI being this almost humanistic interface that you can partner with, that you can throw ideas around with, that you can go back and forth with to iterate on things and produce better ideas. And at Canva, we are very bullish on the idea that humans and technology together can produce better outcomes, can be better for society, can produce more impact and have more positive social impact. I love that buzzer. We've still got 45 seconds left.
Yeah, we're quite efficient here, everybody. But, I think the last, I would say 2 questions from my end. One is what your team has basically said you should talk about, which is a 2-step plan. What is it about? And can you tell us more?
So for the longest time on Canva, we've had a 2-step plan. Step 1 is build one of the most valuable companies in the world. And step 2 is do the most good we can in the world. And when we started Canva, we set out to create a different company. It wasn't just about creating as much money as possible and creating shareholder value. It was really about what is the positive impact we can have on the world by creating a great product and bringing together an amazing team of people that can have an impact on the world. And we think about those two different sides of the coin, about creating value and having positive impact at all times. We've set up a foundation called the Canva Foundation, which actually owns a large part of Canva. So every time Canva's valuation goes up, the amount of capital that the Canva Foundation has to access and do philanthropic work increases as well. We've now deployed over $30 million into programs such as direct cash grants and education, and we're continuing to scale and amplify that as Canva gets bigger.
And this is the last question, and I know time's up, but if you look at your journey building Canva, right, with Mel and Cliff, what has been the one leadership lesson or the one sort of, this is the one thing I take away from this journey that you want to share with all of us today?
For me as a leader, it is about championing my team. Our team are amazing. They do a far better job at many things than I do. And letting them take the lead, letting them take the reins, using their innate skills and enthusiasm to bring innovation to the company, to bring Canva to India, to help us grow, helping them flourish has been my biggest learning.
You can see like the lift in his voice and the energy and the enthusiasm when he talks about his team, right? So it's actually really, I think, very authentic. And that's why I think your team also, by the way, calls you Captain Cool. So.
It's a nickname I only learned from you, but I think it's pretty accurate.
But listen, Cam, it's been a pleasure. Time's up. It's been fantastic. And welcome again to India. And we're really excited for what Canva brings to India and to the overall tech and design ecosystem. So welcome again. Thanks.